Who does not love this sound? Does that remind you of a kid's toy? What is this tool anyway that I'm fiddling with? All right, little hint. Okay. Socket. Lug nut. Tightening your wheel. Okay, that's right. It is a torque wrench. So much better than just a ratchet wrench. All right, what is a torque wrench? How is it different? Well, if you look here, this has a foot-pound series of measurements, and when you twist the bottom handle, it changes to different foot-pound readings. And whatever readings, whatever setting is required for the tightening of your summer or winter wheels on your car, that is what the automotive technician will tighten your wheels to. And they'll make sure that once they do the setting, they tighten it until it does one final click, and then they know that the wheels are tight. Okay, what happens if you don't calibrate your torque wrench properly? Well, your wheels might fall off. They'll certainly get loose. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. I certainly hope it doesn't. It hasn't, or that it never will. But the fact is that wheels come off, and there's way too many YouTube videos showing that, and YouTube shorts showing that, to prove that someone had a problem with their torque wrench. You know, it's possible that they just cranked it without a torque wrench, thought it was tight, because it sure felt tight, couldn't push it any tighter. That doesn't mean that it's properly tight. Okay. We're in the middle of a series called Tool Rules here at Coy Tutoring Services. Rule 1, get the right tool for the job. Rule 2, what works in one situation won't necessarily work in another. Rule 3, old isn't always obsolete. And Rule 4, calibrate or miss the mark. Okay, we already talked about the wonderful torque wrench, which everyone should own. So that is one application where it's very obvious that you need to calibrate or you will miss the mark, okay? Who else needs to calibrate tools that they use in daily life? Well, certainly a pilot. The most basic tool in a plane is the altimeter. What's an altimeter? Well, the altimeter gives the elevation of the plane relative to the surface of the ground. And obviously that needs to be calibrated, right? And there's very, very specialized ways of making sure that that's calibrated. If you're a butcher, you have a commercial grade scale, and that has to be calibrated, right? And you have to, for your customers' confidence, calibrate that regularly. There's laws about that, right? All right, now let's talk beyond technical contexts for needing to calibrate or we may miss the mark. Let's talk about education, all right? What do you need to do if you are a teacher, okay, or an instructor, or you're responsible for training, your crew. You're responsible in a certain work context, okay? Well, particularly when we talk about education in terms of elementary, secondary, and college and university in multiple contexts, the number one thing that needs to happen is that the educator needs to calibrate their knowledge. Their knowledge of what? Well, their knowledge of their content, number one, but secondly, and we don't pay enough attention to this, they have to calibrate, can't keep it static, they have to calibrate their knowledge of their students. Why? Well, it's so critically important that teachers know their students, and they have to calibrate that knowledge in such a way that it's specialized in terms of the 20 students that are sitting in front of them at whatever grade, at whatever level, in whatever subject. Crucial, all right? So teachers need to calibrate their knowledge. They have to get to know those students because that's the only way that you can reach students, right? You've got to build that personal relationship. You got to customize your responses to different students based on, how they're doing and, your knowledge of their strengths and challenges. Secondly, what you need to do as an educator in terms of calibrating, or you could miss the mark, what you need to do is calibrate your own expectations, right? You need to calibrate your expectations of yourself in a certain context. If you're brand new to teaching, you're not going to know everything all the time. You've got to calibrate your expectations, all right? And if you have taught, for example, grade 12 chemistry for the last 15 years, and suddenly you're teaching, grade 10 open math or grade 9 applied science, you have to calibrate. You've got to say, okay, what parts of my knowledge do I need to apply in this context? And again, you got to go back to calibrating your knowledge of your students, okay? Calibrating your expectations, though, of yourself is critically important. All right, you've got to do some thinking. Not everyone is all the same. And that's the purpose, really, of calibrating or missing the mark. We can go beyond the trades. We can go beyond education. We can apply this to each one of us in our daily lives. Calibrate, or you might miss the mark, okay? Pay attention. Calibrate, your expectations, calibrate your knowledge of the other person, all right? This is so important for us in whatever we do in our primary relationships in particular. We have to calibrate or we might miss the mark, okay? Listen to each other and be ready to revise and to recalibrate as needed. Bye for now.